choosing a stand or choosing a plot or choosing what the American would say, a piece of dirt. It is always advisable to purchase a stand before you even start looking at designing a house plan. You get a stand, the stand which is chosen dependent on what you can afford, of course. And the budget must always balance the size of the stand you require versus the geographical preferred location. Sometimes I tend to see people who are just excited, they want to start building. Excited, they just hear there's a land here, there's cheap land here, they quickly go and buy. But is it the preferred land? Is it the preferred locations that you are looking at? And generally, the cost of land varies from area to area. So you want to buy land which will be what we would call market related in that area. And just bearing in mind as a general rule, land is more expensive in built up areas or established areas and suburbs. So you want to rather do a bit of more homework even before you purchase your land. And then the second thing, you want to look at the budget of the project, which you can divide it into two parts. One is the cost of land, and the second is the cost of building. And in many cases you find that the building also is divided in two parts. You've got the cost of building cost itself, then also you've got the budget or the cost of what we call soft costs. And these are basically planning costs, costs for getting an architect, an engineer, cost for permits, cost for connections, water, electricity, and things like that. So you want to categorize your budget in that kind of sequence. And so you also want to be methodical or logical in the way you take steps. And the first logical step is to make a short list of suburbs or areas you want to build in. The suitable areas that would meet your lifestyle. But also in those areas you find what is more suitable land. And as you do this, you always want to bear in mind to check your basic points which you want to look at. You want to look at, as you are going to a suburb, you want to look at the conditions of the roads. You want to look at the availability of paved paths. You want to look at do those areas, roads have stormwater drains? Do they have street lights and other amenities? Those are very important notes to recognize. I'll tell you a story. There's this gentleman who just had those cheap land and he rushed, he went and buy. It was very cheap land. And he bought, and before he knew it, he started building. And before he knew it, it was rain season. And what happened was suddenly the roads, which had potholes, was now full of water. And he had this smoker, so he would use this smoker through those same roads. Little did he realize that he was, allow me to use the word abuse, he was abusing the car. He was training the car. Before he knew it, the car was complaining. He goes and fix this, he goes and fix that, he goes and fix that. And to his frustration, he just said, no, let me go and buy a bigger car. Now guess what? He now eats into the budget of the construction to buy his new car. And unfortunately, the project was stopped because the money was diverted to buying something else. So yeah, I'm trying to say that it is important that you consider some of these places, the type of roads, these areas, the type of roads and conditions these areas have. And then also the other disadvantage he had was in that area, there was no even public transport. So could you imagine his frustrations? Ultimately, he ended up doing what was not even on the plan in the first place. So the third point is before you purchase the land, you want to visit the municipalities. You want to visit the local authorities. You want to find out what are their policies towards buildings. What are their zoning restrictions. And then secondly, you want to look at do they have a future plan for the suburb? Is there, for example, a highway that is coming to the suburb? And if that is the case, is it coming your way? Is your stand going to stand in the way of the highway? Because there's two things you could consider if that could be the case. Is it going to be a problem for you in the sense that the car is going to bring sound pollution to you? Are they going to bring air pollution to you? So you want to consider some of those things. And then also, just worst scenario, are you building in the way? Is your stand in the way of the highway? Or is your house going to be built in the way of the highway, such that you'll be forced to demolish your property? If it's just sound pollution, air pollution, is it something we would live with, or you could be compelled to resell your property? Yeah, so those are some of the things we want to consider before you purchase your land. The fourth point is you also want to consider, is it going to be a good idea to think about purchasing land next to your workplace? Is it going to be in a place where you will have major traffic jams, especially during peak hours? Or are you going to have major alternative routes that you could use traveling to and from your workplace? Yeah, and the other thing is, if you have a family, you have children, getting a place in proximity to schools is really an absolute must. You want to be too close to the school. But also not forgetting the general amenities that should serve you on day-to-day basis. Things like a shopping complex or a shopping center things like service station, a clinic, things like a church of your relevant denomination, a police station, a bank. So you want to look at some of those things, because at the end of the day, just like you desire to design a house that should function and meet your wants and needs, it's in the same way that when you are choosing your location, it must be able to serve you in that order. It must be functional, because in the first place, that is the very reason why you want to build your own. It must be able to be functional. So those are the thoughts you want to consider before you buy your stand.